Hello, everybody. My name is Walton Burns, and I'm just going to talk to you today about styles in Word and how you can use them to make your book formatting so very easy, um, and how to make it beautiful. And I'm thinking mainly about people who want to write their book in Word and then convert it into a PDF and self-publish it directly from Word. If you are planning to submit your book to an agent or a publisher, or you have a book designer, then I think all you really need to know about styles is that you can apply um, styles to your chapter titles um, and unit titles, just so that the the publisher, the agent, or the designer can see the layout of your book, the hierarchy. But I wouldn't do too much messing around with what those styles look like because they're just going to redo it all in their design program anyway. If you are planning to do an ebook, then you can do some of this stuff, but I wouldn't play around too much with the fonts. But ebooks that you are planning to turn into an EPUB, you can also have some fun with changing around the styles. So, here is a opening page of a book that doesn't really exist. I just jotted this down quickly. And I've got some text, and I've got a chapter name, and I've got a chapter number. Now, your document may not have a chapter number and a chapter name. You may have one or the other, but let's just imagine just for fun. And the cool thing about styles is that I can define how the chapter heading is going to look. And then when I apply that style to all the other chapter headings in my document, they'll all look the same. And if I come back later and I decide I want to change something about that style, all of the chapter headings, all the text that has that style applied to it will change along with it. So I don't have to go through the document and change things one by one. So, what I'm going to start with is I always think it's a good idea to start with your text styling, because all the other styles tend to be based off of that. So any changes you make to normal are going to affect everything else. So you want to get that kind of out of the way first. And you can change styles by right-clicking on them and then going to Modify. And this window will come up and you can see some of the things over here that you can change. And if you go to Format, down here are all the other things you can change, including borders and paragraphs and stuff. I find it a little bit easier to do it like this. I'm going to make all my changes on my usual toolbar that I'm used to, and then I'm going to update the style. So for my book, my basic text, I'm going to do it in Century School Book because I really like Century School Book. I'm going to do 12-point font. If this were a nonfiction book, I might keep it justified, but it's a fiction book, so I'm going to left align. And I'm going to add a little leading in there, or line spacing. And I'm going to add for 12-point font, I usually do a 12-point line spacing. And then I'm also going to just increase the space between paragraphs ever so slightly, because I like it. And there. That is my normal text done. And again, as long as I use this style on all my text in my book, it's now dead easy to change that style and change how much spacing there is, change anything I want, pretty much, about that text. All right, now I'm going to deal with the chapter headings. And I'm going to do a real simple one. So for the title, I'm going to center it, and I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. That's 12, so I'm going to do 24. And I think I'm going to bold it. And I am going to make it, let's say, Century Gothic, since this is a Century School book. And I want to add a little bit of room between that and the text. So I'm actually going to do a one line, one single spacing, because I just think it makes everything else easier. And I'm going to increase the space between the chapter heading and the text. Doesn't that look nice? And now I'm going to go ahead, I've made this heading 2, so I'm going to go ahead and tell it, right click it and say update heading 2 to match selection. And now that's what heading 2 looks like. So I think that's a little easier than using that modify panel. Now I'm going to do the chapter number, and I'm going to assign this a different style. I could give it the exact same style, and it will look exactly the same, and that's an option, but I'm going to give it a different style. I'm going to use heading 1 here. And actually, I'm going to use heading 3 here, so that heading 1 I can use for something more important. And I'm also going to center it. I think I'm also going to change it to Century Gothic. And I am going to make it, if I click on not paragraphs, but I click on font, I can make it small caps, which gives it that little look that I think is kind of nice. It's a lowercase letter size, but they are actually capitals. And I'm going to make it slightly bigger, just to 14. And I'm also going to put some space in there by clicking on the paragraph command, paragraph toolbar. And I'm going to do 36. And I also want to do space before, because a lot of times you'll notice the chapters start halfway down the page, or a third of the way down the page. I'm going to change that to 1, and we're going to see how that looks. And I think that doesn't look half bad. But I'm going to make this a little smaller. Update to match selection. I think that looks a little better. I might play around making this bold. That looks a little bit, I think that does work better. And yeah, that doesn't look half bad. And I think a great place to get ideas for these kinds of layouts is to go to the library or a bookstore, or use the Amazon Look Inside feature, and see what other books in your genre are doing. You can have a lot of fun with different things, changing the spacing and the alignment. One thing I sometimes like to do is align one element right and one element left. You can play with size relationships. What if I made this big and this even bigger? Something like that. That looks pretty good. I can increase the space between things, and that really just changes the look. For some reason, and just try different things. For some reason, when I look at this, I think that maybe 18 point. I think that maybe that should be very high up, and then I should add more space between the number and the title. And then I think I'm going to center that. I can get very caught up playing with these things all day. And I'm going to make this bigger too. Yeah. So feel free to have fun with that. Change the fonts. I can show you that. Sometimes with comedy or lighthearted or even romance books, this will be a handwritten font, which I think you want to try to make bigger. So it's a little more legible. Instead of chapter 1, this could just be the number 1, and I could actually make it huge and choose like Arial Black. That doesn't look bad. I could swap it around. That goes left, and that goes right, and then the text is back to left. So yeah, that's styles. You just always want to make sure that when you go back and you always are updating to match selection. Um, or if you are using the right-click modify, that you're always clicking OK. Um, yeah, so I hope that that has helped you learn about word styles. Feel free to leave any comments with any questions or other tips and tricks in the comments, and be sure to like the video so other people will see it. And thanks so much.